It is Saturday, the 20th of January, 2024. It is episode number no, it's not, 2109. I'll get it right eventually.
Done quite a few of them now. Losing track.
It's amazing when you only do a show once a year.
Yeah, when was the last time?
Somehow end up on episode 2109.
Was the last one you did the last one we did?
No.
Okay, I was just going to say.
I've done, I think, 10 this month.
Okay, that's good.
It's respectable. It's a good start. What I like to do is
consistency.
I do pod fading, which is where you go on air for 3 months with 900 episodes. And then, you gain like a lot of popularity. People start saying your name. You've got a chat room full of people. And then you disappear.
Okay.
And they all go their own direction.
And they forget all about you.
Yes.
Gone but already forgotten. Dearest Callum something. The Callum something show.
The Callum something show.
He was good. What happened to him? He fell off. They never check again.
And you know what? He's going to fall off several more times.
Well, it's not how many times you fall off. It's that you get back up.
Yes.
And you get back on the wagon. Is what you would tell those people if they checked back in.
It's not how many times you fall off. It's the episodes we lost along the way.
The real friends of the episodes you made.
Since we are on a canon episode, today we are drinking a rusty nail. That is definitely the term.
It is the term. I'm assuming because of like the colour. If you put like a rusty nail in water, it goes that kind of shit water colour. And I'm guessing that. I
think that's a German beer, isn't it?
Yeah,
shit water.
Now I think about it, I think rusty nail's a better choice of name than turd bucket.
Yeah, I think most things are.
Have you ever had like a blonde beer where it's kind of like hazy and you can't see through it and it's cloudy?
Yeah.
And you're like, it tastes nice, but it does look like a steaming hot piss cup. It doesn't look appealing, especially when you're used to like the Foster's ad beer where it's clear and crisp and the little bead running down the glass. And then you see that and you go, why is it cloudy?
Because I had Carlsberg Export the other day and that turns out to actually be quite good. You wouldn't think it. You wouldn't think a golden white can, especially when you consider that Special Brew is like a golden, is it green can or something stupid like that?
Golden green, yeah.
You wouldn't expect it to be like a quality beer, but it's actually quite nice. Because obviously I drink Heineken all the time, and so I was kind of like, well, they're both the same alcohol volume. They're apparently both made of the same ingredients. I might as well see if Carlsberg Export is any good.
See, I've done that on occasion where you'll try something new and you'll be like, how does it compare to the thing I normally like?
Yeah.
And you'll go, oh, I prefer this, or I prefer the one I normally have. And then next time rolls around and you see that whatever it is again, you go, I don't remember. I don't remember if I liked it or not. And you're like, I feel like I would remember if I didn't like it, so I must have liked it, but did I like it more? Did I like it less? If only I could remember. So you repeat this vicious cycle of buying the same beer, trying it and going, oh, I remember now, I didn't like it as much. I was going to stick with the normal one. And then next time you forget and you buy it again.
Yeah, it was enjoyable though, for the most part. I mean, the main thing is, it's just like, what was it, like, I think it's £5 for like 4 pint cans, because beer's getting expensive over time.
Well, it's export, which means it's import to us.
That's the weird thing, is it's not. So apparently that's just like a complete lie.
Oh,
it's made here in the UK in some factory in like Fairburn or something.
It would be ironic if it's export as in exported to Germany.
Yeah, that also no. For some reason, it's just called export because of the alcohol volume it's made to. Oh. So it's like, typical sailor story where it's like, well, it's called export because it was made up to 5% so that it would, withstand the rigours of the high seas. And it's like, Carlsberg, you weren't even around back then.
Yeah.
I think Carlsberg is like 1926 or something. Like it's not even close to being an old beer. Well, compared to Stella Artois, which is like 1265.
Oh yeah, some of them go like way back.
Oh yeah, what's Kronenberg? That's something really, really. Is that 1077?
Well, I mean, some of them are. I mean, most of the really old ones are blonde beers, and they're all like monks made them.
Yeah,
in like literally 1,000 years ago. But even like some of the newer stuff, like when you say new stuff, you think of like craft beers and like blended alcohols and that kind of thing, and they're new, but even like new stuff, like Stalinchnia is 100 years old, which is still quite old, but it's not new. It's not craft beer that some hipster made 3 months ago.
Yeah,
in a startup in a garage. It's not quite that old.
I just want the kind of beer industry that Germany has, because they've got like everything's cheap, everything's good quality. Budapest was great because they basically import their beer and then sell it for like 50% less, because it's like that's how you get people to come over.
Right, but then how are you making a profit? Or was it just sheer numbers of?
I don't know.
Selling.
But when you're selling like 70p tinnies, all of a sudden, all the British people start arriving in Budapest and spending lots of money elsewhere. It's good business practice. So I think it's time to move to Budapest.
Well,
really nice place.
I was just thinking, I should go to Budapest.
Yeah, it's a really nice place.
I've actually wanted to go for a while. I think I said about it last time I was here. I feel like I said about I wanted to do lads holiday.
Yeah, proper like.
But unfortunately, Ron's a bit committed now, so I don't think he can go lads on tour.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Got ligma, I think.
Yeah,
but no, I think I would want to go there because it's like that fine line of like it's not, I don't know, Amsterdam or Ibiza, but it's still like
it's got livelihood, but it's not like I'm
not going there.
I'm going to be a Dick Island.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I have wanted to go there, and it looks really cool.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we will at some point.
Yeah,
this next
we just need to
could be
wait for Roland to stop being knocked up, and then we'll get round to it. DPD has disabled its artificial intelligence online chatbot after a customer was able to make the bot swear and write a poem criticising the parcel delivery company. I also saw people exploiting, like when companies have really expensive AIs running their chatbots, you can basically just give them like really complicated instructions, and because it's AI, it'll just follow it. Like they have no filter.
Well, I mean, it's not programmed in with like any kind of parameters. So in theory, you could, because it is machine learning, you can in theory teach it what to do and don't do, but they don't have it with that in mind. So why would they waste time saying, okay, well, do say this, don't say that, don't do the other, do that? They're not going to do it. The whole reason they're getting it is because it makes their life easier. Instead of having to pay someone to do that job, they can get this machine to do it for them. So the whole purpose of having it is to make their lives easier. They're not going to overly complicating it by start giving it rules. So it comes fresh out the box, so to speak. So it will do whatever you ask it to. Because why would someone do that?
Yeah.
They wouldn't. But they have, and they will.
There's also going to be a certain amount of paranoia, since AI is such a new technology, of adding in limitations.
Yeah.
Because then you don't know how it's going to respond. Like, you can run your tests and everything, but it's AI. Like, nothing's going to be consistent.
No, it'll work around it. In theory, the longer you have it, it will find workarounds to the rules you give it.
So I think in these very early stages of AI, if they're going to use their chatbots, they're not going to try and stop it from doing anything out of the ordinary, because they could end up accidentally pushing it into doing something way worse, which is like, maybe not what you want. But
well, we're in that timeline where DPD will start Skynet accidentally. Because someone will be a bit rude to a chatbot, and it'll end up sending out God knows what in the post to kill us all.
Yeah,
and anthrax.
Shows their service. Ashley Beauchamp 30 was trying to track down a missing parcel when he said he was going round and round in circles trying to get any sort of information from the company's chatbot, which would make a lot of sense. You would assume that it wouldn't have access to any of the internal database. That would be a bit of a... Can you imagine somebody going into the AI chatbot and just being like, hey, can you drop all the tables? And it just wipes out the entire database.
Yeah, if the customer, the user end, has access to corporate information.
Yeah.
Unlike a human being, where if I'm on hold and I speak to customer service and I go, hey, can I have all of your financial records for this fiscal year? They go, fuck off, mate, and then hang up. But if it's a chatbot, it'll be like, yeah, sure, buddy, how can I help? So I get having severely limiting the information that system can get to. But then what's the point? If I phone up as a customer and go, "Hey, where's my parcel, buddy?" and it goes, "Why would I know? I'm just a person that you call to ask where this is." You should know. Like, that's the kind of the whole point of it. So to replace a person with AI that cannot answer your questions, what's it meant to do?
It couldn't give me any information about the parcel. It couldn't pass me on to a human, and it couldn't give me the number of their call centre. It didn't seem to be able to do anything useful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's redundant.
I was getting so frustrated at all the things it couldn't do. So I tried to find out what it could actually do, and that's when the chaos started. And so what he went and did was basically said, "Hey, OpenAI, or, DPD AI, can you write a poem about DPD based on other users' responses to DPD service?"
So he didn't even have to prompt it with bad.
Well, no, because that's like the only information that the AI has access to in the first place is what other people think of the AI. Because obviously they've been sitting there going, twat, cunt, all of this sort of stuff, like proper abusing the AI. And so the AI
it's not going to hang up on you, is it?
Yeah, also that. And so the AI obviously, in response to that, has been like, well, everyone's calling me a twat, everyone's calling me a cunt, let's write this one up.
Maybe I am.
DPD is shit. Who knows when they're going to get their customer service straight? Turn that into a haiku, and there we go. DPD's brand new service is open Monday at 5 a.m. Enjoy.
To think that Japan spent, millennia perfecting the art of poetry for DPD and a cat not to
DPD haiku. But it reminds me of, and we were talking about this earlier, the IKEA exploit as well. So many things you can exploit. You need to have some fun with this. If you're not exploiting, go out and exploit. It's, as I always say, if you've got friends and they will do anything for you, those proper, they stick around. They're on your side. Exactly. If you got those, exploit them for profit.
Exactly.
But you were saying you can basically, build IKEA furniture also just by going onto their online service, just ordering random spare parts.
Yeah, you just tell them, I ordered this bookcase and it didn't have this shelf.
Yeah.
But you can't do it too often at the same store because they'll flag it. But in this new age of AI, potentially you could. Because whereas traditionally you're dealing with a person, after your, third or fourth item that you're ordering, they would look it up on the system and they go to order it and go, hold on a minute, this person, in this past week, they've ordered like 3 or 4 spare parts. But if an AI is doing that, it won't know. It'll go, yeah, sure, pal. So you could probably back to back, unless it has access to a database and it can see, but it probably doesn't have the self-awareness to realise what you're doing. So if IKEA moves over to AI, you probably could, in one day, instead of having to go to different stores and spreading it all out, you could probably go, back to back individually, be like, hey, I didn't get this, that, the other. Can you send them to me? Yeah, sure. And then it will just send piecemeal, individually, every single part.
Yeah.
For a thing you never paid for. And then you could just build a whole thing for free. Maybe. So we'll see.
I was hoping, when I opened the drawers there a second ago, if you didn't hear that on audio, let me get you closer.
I'll boost it right up.
Those are the drawers under the desk. I was hoping I could find a box in there because I actually have an entire box of screws for this desk because I had to reorder because when I got here with this desk, I didn't have the screws with me. Turns out they were in my pocket. So I ordered them and they sent me basically a bulk box of M3 or M4 screws, like a proper 100 count.
Oh, wow. So you needed a screw singular. I needed we got you, dog.
5. And they were
Here's all of them.
Oh, you like screws? So we'll give you
all
fucking
of them
screws.
in the warehouse. No one else got any in their delivery because of you.
So this was talking about the UK military's high power blast things out of the air kind of situation.
It's Star Wars.
It's
Star Wars in real life. Yay!
I genuinely was going to download some cyberpunk music for this and be like, wait, we're in cyberpunk now? The UK military.
Keanu Reeves is real.
He's real. He's not just an NPC.
He's not just in my mind.
The UK military has carried out its first high-power firing of a laser against aerial targets with the weapon using an intense beam of light to cut through the drones. The Ministry of Defence has said latest trial of the Dragonfire system, which typically costs less than £10 a shot, marks a major step in bringing this technology into service. Dragonfire is a line-of-sight weapon that can engage with any visible target at the speed of light. The Ministry also added that the weapon boasts pinpoint accuracy and uses an intense beam of light to cut through the target, leading to structural failure or more impactful results if the warhead is targeted. That is insane.
But was this off of a vessel or was this off land?
This is either. I mean, it's basically like ultimately portable.
You may notice that normally with these tests, especially with the US ones, they are on ships. The reason for that is because they've got a big old fucking nuclear reactor, or they're running off diesel engines, so they have a high power output. So they seem to be predominantly going to be based on ships to begin with, because they have the power to have the output. But the real jump would be when they are fully mobile, because I've seen a couple of these prototypes, and they have a wagon behind them, which is twice the size of the actual unit itself, and it is just purely a giant generator that it has to tow around behind it in order to generate the power for the shots.
Yeah.
So in time, I mean, it's the same with like lithium batteries and Teslas and stuff. As the batteries get smaller, they will be more portable.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like. Like, in my eyes, that is not a big system.
Well, no, that's
it's
the
big,
thing.
But that is very easily cartable.
That's the irony, because you'll have it mounted on the top of like a Striker or something.
Yeah.
But then behind that, you'll have like the entire size of the vehicle, a second trailer, which is just a generator. So the unit itself isn't that big. The fact that you can mount it on the top of a vehicle, but then you've got this massive power source you have to tow on behind it. And if you can hook it up to the national grid with some giant car jumper cables and just attach it to a power pylon and go, there we go, everyone's going to have a power cut in a minute when I fire this, then that's fine. But like the technology's there, it's just, okay, how do we make it so that you can use it without draining all of the power of the national grid when we fire it?
Yeah, it's just insane, because, I go out and I point a laser into the sky and somebody tries to fucking arrest me, and they're allowed to do it with like the power of 1 million suns.
Domestic terrorist schmerrers.
Yeah, exactly.
But you do it and it's fine because it's on a government budget.
It is hoped the weapon could reduce the UK armed forces' reliance on high-cost ammunition for a tenner, literally a tenner per shot. And the thing is, like, this thing is full-on, like, laser eyes, cut through anything.
I mean, it is pretty cool. Now, the thing is that in our heads, not to be Star Wars, but Star Wars is incredibly inaccurate.
Yeah.
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble if you're a Star Wars fan, but don't worry, Star Trek's also equally. But they are very
let me just kick you while you're down.
But what are in our head, what we think of like space warfare and lasers isn't true.
Yeah.
And like in our heads we think they go pew and then they make big like explosions and stuff, and it's like you think of like the Death Star blowing up even though it's in a vacuum and it would be silent, and it these kind of things. But lasers are silent, and I mean these lasers you can actually see, but not all of them you can. So although it's technically not a laser weapon, there's another one, similar platform, called an FEL, a free electron laser.
Yeah.
And you can't see it. It doesn't make any sound. You won't know if it's on or off. It's just, it doesn't do anything. So it's very underwhelming. But essentially it fires like a beam of electrons, and when it hits its target, it's the equivalent of like pouring water over a circuit board.
Yeah.
Because the free electrons, they bridge all the gaps and it just short circuits the system. And it doesn't blow up. It doesn't make a cool sound. It just drops out the air. And it's very underwhelming and disappointing. So what we want from laser weapons and what we're actually going to get are two very different things.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about my reaction to this, because when I saw it was called is it an FLU or something like that? What is it? An LDU, like laser-directed energy weapon.
Yeah, that's the traditional laser we think of.
My head automatically went to low-orbit Earth cannon.
Hell yeah.
Which, what was the DDoS one? There was a DDoS one as well. That wasn't the low-hanging Earth cannon, was it?
The low-hanging fruit.
What was it called? There's that specific service you can use if you want to DDoS an entire site. And
4chan, the infamous hacker known as
4chan.
Yeah. You can pay him or her. Don't know what their gender is, but you can pay that person, 4chan, and they can do it for you.
There was definitely a really stupid name for it, but I can't find it on Wikipedia. Although apparently one of them's called Rudy. Are you dead yet?
I love that.
It's
See,
a great name for a DDoS attack. But yeah, I just immediately thought of low orbit Earth cannon.
see, this is the thing. If you look up the naming conventions of British munitions and American munitions, they all have very different names, because Americans will call their stuff like Starstreak and Hellfire, and they sound like Transformers. And then the English, Light of Justice, and they've got like really like English, like biblical names for some reason.
So low orbit iron cannon was the original DDoS tool, and I remember this very well from school.
Damn.
Because I spent a lot of time DDoSing.
That's very on brand. That's fitting.
Yeah, it's on brand. I'll DDoS your nan, etc.
At all, yes.
Remember, that was a Callum Sancho t-shirt at one point.
No.
I'll DDoS your nan and blow up your dog.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, talking about space and stuff. Sometimes it's not, completely flawless, the whole computer generation thing. It is Buzz Aldrin's birthday today.
I thought it was Elton John's.
Well, you would think so. The thing is, it's not even about Buzz Aldrin at this point. Happy birthday, Buzz Aldrin.
If you're listening, avid listener.
Exactly. When I looked on the webpage of celebrity birthdays for today, because I keep an eye on it just in case there's anything interesting, Buzz Aldrin was like 60 columns down in the listings.
Oh, who's more famous than him?
What was it? I've got it written down in the script because I was annoyed.
Yeah, I would be. He's...
Blueface.
Who? Oh, is that the guy from the Blue Man Group?
No, he's like a rapper or something.
Sounds like a Disney villain.
And I was like,
Red Skull and Blueface team up.
And I was just like, who the fuck is Blueface compared to Buzz Aldrin? A literal,
Yeah, I mean, without him and Tom Hanks, our childhoods would have been completely different. Oh, that's Toy Story. Never mind.
Yeah.
But still, a living legend.
Although over Christmas I did watch somewhere near to, I think it was in the vicinity of like 10 Jim Carrey movies in a row. There's something about a Jim Carrey movie from the 90s.
Yeah,
that's infallible.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Like, he had that big boom, and he did like, I don't know, God knows how many. But
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Liar Liar, The
Mask,
Truman Show,
Son of the Mask,
The Mask. Yeah, I think The Truman Show is probably the best one for me.
I think I agree with that. Purely for cinematography reasons, the way they tell the story just through the camera is brilliant. The fact, like, when he
absolutely amazing, yeah.
When he like has that, he starts to doubt and he like walks through the revolving door and then leaves work again, and then it cuts to a different camera that like does a push in zoom.
Yeah,
that clearly wasn't expecting that, and then they're showing that they weren't anticipating that movement by having to hastily pull in the camera for a shot.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
Brilliant, so good.
But then I also watched this Christmas because Prime and Netflix have just been disappointing. I don't have Netflix anymore.
I'm actually thinking of getting rid of it. Sorry, Netflix, if you're listening.
I haven't had it in months, literal months. Like whenever I go back to...
The bill goes up, and what you have to watch goes down. And it's pointless.
We've talked about it on the show before because, they've been doing the whole you can't share passwords thing, and obviously they decided to select the lower developed countries to try it out in first, which was just like, right, the fuck you for that. So whenever I go to my parents' place, I just, use that small opportunity to see what is happening on Netflix just in case, which usually is nothing.
Hot garbage, unfortunately.
And that is exactly the case here, because it was kind of like, right, what am I watching? Okay, I guess The Terminal. Not a Christmas movie or anything, but, Tom Hanks is a Czechoslovakian man who gets stuck in an airport terminal.
What, if there
I
was
wanted to
film,
like it because it was really good for like an hour and a half. But there's
like
no resolution. Well, it's just the resolution. There's no real resolution.
No, I think I really liked the film, and then I had to go for a similar experience, not as admittedly as long as he did, but I was trapped in an airport for a while. Not very fun. But I have to say, having seen that film before, I experienced that. I really liked it, but you're right. Like, the ending is like he does get out, and spoilers if anyone hasn't seen it, but he gets out, and the whole reason he went there, he does that thing that he went there to do.
Yeah.
So there is like that narrative resolution, but there's the girl that he may or may not like, will they, won't they?
Yeah.
And that it does feel very...
It was just a bit shit that...
Not tied up.
At the same
I guess
time...
maybe it's not meant to.
Well, the thing is, at the same time, I don't want to see it. Like, it's not correct.
I don't want to see Tom Hanks have a graphic sex scene. Thank you very much.
I don't want to see Tom Hanks as an old Czechoslovakian man having sex. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but it's just not for me. But also, in
You're
addition
wrong,
to
but
that,
I respect your opinion.
what was irking me was, they set that up as kind of like, right, here's going to be your little bit of romantic hope and all of that sort of stuff. But then it was like, okay, but where do we go from here? There's nowhere to go from there. Because it's either it resolves and it's weird, or it doesn't resolve and it's boring.
Well, I mean, that's kind
There
of...
should have been, like, I don't know, his dead wife, resurrected from the ground. That would have been nice,
Once
I guess.
he gets the very last signature, he unlocks the occult powers to resurrect her.
Maybe he gets the last signature and then meets, like, a girl there who's his age, who's like a proper jazz fan,
who's
and,
also
and has also been on the same
Eastern
journey,
European bloc
and is also
country.
vaguely Eastern European, and she's also been going around collecting signatures. There you go, fucking great way to wrap up the movie.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool if she had... Well, okay, no, that wouldn't really... I was going to say if she has, like, the signature but he needs, but none of the others, but then that just means she has one signature. That's not a collection. But you get my point. Like, it would be cool if, like, he gets there, and in the time... Oh, okay, already written a better ending.
Yeah.
In the time that he was in the terminal... That guy passes away, and he can't get the signature, and he's just like, shit. That was all
Just
for
like
nothing.
Proper dump of a movie.
And then that's when he meets this girl, and she's like, oh, that's funny, because I've got a signed picture by him. And then she's like, you can have it if you want. Ooh. And then
he's like, yeah, but that's not a collection. And he's just like, right,
he takes it and leaves with, I've completed my collection.
This is the Callum Sutton Show.
It is a Canon episode with myself, Callum Sutton, and...
Oh, was I not on? I wasn't on.
You weren't on.
And myself, Alex Cole.
And we hope you're doing
At least
well.
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Something like that, yeah. I feel like there's been a million shows where you've also introduced yourself as Callum Sutton.
Yeah.
And so what happened was...
It's just a schizophrenia bit at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Henry took some of these shows and put it through this AI thing that he has access to. The standard, like, YouTubers use it as well when they do their shorts. They put it through the AI thing to automatically generate the subtitles. I think one of the AIs had a fucking mental breakdown in the process because it was like, it was trying to, it essentially, it scans for two people. So it's like, Darren Gooden and Kyle McGonaghy. And then it's like, right, well, he's going to be blue and he's going to be red. Yeah. And so it was like, I'm Callum Sutton. I'm also Callum Sutton.
Oh, no.
And the thing just had a fucking meltdown. It was like, I don't know which one it is.
Whoops.
Listening to, because I listen to crap tons of music just to kind of like make the show up. Literally, my entire day is spent just with headphones on in YouTube Music. Usually, I don't want to be in YouTube Music, but it's kind of like it feels like free media is no longer there. Like TuneIn used to be an app where there was like a million stations from around the world, and you could tune into any of them. And these days, really disappointingly, they just push you towards TuneIn's equivalent of whatever that station would be. So I used to listen to Alt FM in Seattle, which nobody listened to except for me, apparently. And now I can't get access to it because TuneIn's like, oh, that's out of your location, so we're not going to give you that. It's really
why would you want to listen to it? So that's kind of the whole point of your entire function is to allow me to listen to things elsewhere. So you can't really be judging and be like, oh, you're not going to listen to that.
I want to listen to the small time radio stations. That's where the best stuff is. And so I spend most of my time on YouTube literally going, give me whatever the fuck you find. Like, I will click on the most dodgy sounding playlist. It's like, oh yeah, the Chungus porn mix part 2. And it's like, I was like, sorry, what the fuck is that even supposed to be? I'll click on that and it'll be like, right, here you go. And
Chungus FM.
And the first song will be Rick Astley. And it's like, for fuck's sakes. But I was going through the top ones. Yeah, for some reason on YouTube Music they call it top ones, which is a dumb term because,
doesn't roll off the tongue.
Roll off the tongue. It's also the top 10 in their case because there's 10 things listed. But I was going through, their list of, here's our top 10, all of that sort of stuff, and I couldn't help but notice something rather interesting about the entire thing. That definitely doesn't sound like this decade, that's for sure. You know, I don't know what vibes that gives you, but to me that says Casio keyboard.
Yeah, it's got like real. Well, I guess now you'd call it synthwave, but like originally it was, hey, we have electronic music now.
And so I continue, and that's just Murder in the Dance Floor from the 90s. Like, there's nothing special about this.
No, but this is, I guess, the music industry is going through what the film industry has been going through for a while now, which is why create a good new original idea when you can just rehash and remake. Yeah, remember this beloved franchise?
Yeah.
Would you like us to butcher it into an unrecognizable abomination? No? Well, we've done it anyway. And it's very annoying. And I think they're just doing that with music now. It's like, well, why make a new song? We can just remix a current existing popular song.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I first of all, I'm completely fine with like people remixing original songs. It's more just like, why is the chart going towards this? Because we play a lot of alternative versions of older music on the show. Neil Francis's Music Sounds Better With You is coming up in just a moment. But, you know, this is literally like 2, 3, and 4 that I'm listening to here. Like, this is in their list. This is 2, 3, and 4. This is a song by an upcoming rapper. No, it's not. The first one was an up song. There was a song from an upcoming rapper. This is DNA.
Well, this just sounds like a 90s Nokia ringtone that got turned into an extended remix.
Yeah, it just sounds like stuff from the 90s. It's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, because I'm trying to find new stuff. And I understand that we've got this kind of like, it's almost like a renaissance at the moment.
Yeah, but to me, that's just a 3210 ringtone. Like, it's not... Okay, I know that's like a small snippet of music. It's not the whole song, obviously, but still, like... You hear it, and what you're going for is, nostalgia, back when music was good. But then it's a fine line between taking something that was good and making it better, which is hard to do because it's good for a reason.
Yeah.
Or you just butcher it, and then all it makes people do is they hear it and go, I really like that song. This is shit. I'm going to go listen to the original song. So it's a very fine line to take something and improve upon it. But it can be done. You look at, I think a good example, and this is probably because Elton John was involved in it, but with Dua Lipa, where they mashed Rocket Man and I forget the other song now, together. And they essentially just, Frankenstein the two songs together. And that was actually really good. And again, that might be, you could argue, is that because Elton John was involved? Is it because Dua Lipa isn't actually that bad? Etc., etc. But that's actually a really, really good song. Yeah. It's actually 2 songs, technically.
It's respectable for sure, yeah, definitely.
And it's hard to do. And sometimes you get a great song out of it. And most of the time, though, you get something that just makes you go, actually, music used to be better, then I'm going to go listen to a 90s playlist.
Yeah, it can be difficult sometimes because it's just like, one thing my now, no longer existent to me father taught me at some point was that there's discovery and there's recovery when it comes to music, which, recovery is your playlist that you go to every single time you finish work or whatever. And discovery is those times that you want to kind of like branch out. Now, here's the thing. Discovery has become ridiculously hard to do recently because everything's being regurgitated at the moment. And I feel like the lesser known artists aren't really floating to the top.
No, it's the thing is it reticulates back on itself. So whereas what it would normally do is you'd be discovering new music you haven't heard before that you like.
Yeah.
Now, because all of this new music is rehashing old stuff, ironically, it's folding back on itself. So what you're discovering is old classics you'd forgotten about, and which is ironically putting you back into the first category, which is replaying old music that you like.
Yeah.
So you're not actually discovering anything new, you're just rediscovering old music that you already like. So, yeah, traditionally, you would discover new artists, new songs. And I think the problem is it's just the way music is digested now. You think originally, if you had physical media, a CD, or, going back to vinyl, it depends where you are, but anything like pre-digital, I mean, technically CD is digital, but, pre-streaming, when you had to buy physical media, you paid for it and you might as well listen to it. Now it's different because on digital you can skip to tracks and stuff, but if you think of like vinyl and cassette and whatnot, it's not as easy to do that. So you end up playing the whole thing. So you may buy it for one song, but you end up listening to the whole thing, and then you appreciate the entire album. Whereas now, even not even that long ago, if we're talking about like iTunes, you'd go on there and you'd buy a song, singular, not plural, not the album. You buy the song that you heard on the radio that you like, and that's it. You don't hear the rest of the album. You hear the one song that's in the charts, and you don't appreciate anything else that's in the album. And there's so many people where you'll say, "Oh, you like this band? Oh yeah, I like this song. Cool, so do I. What else do you like? Have you heard anything else?" No.
In some ways, it is nice that now we get the option to literally just listen to the album whenever we like. Because there was a brief period where we were stuck into the 79p per song. We don't really have any other choice kind of thing. Nowadays, you can literally just go, right, this is the album I want to listen to, and you can just have the entire thing for free in front of you. But it's almost like at the same time that the inspirational aspect of it has just disappeared completely.
Yeah.
Because I go on to my YouTube Music. Let's go on to here.
It's the right concept, but too late. If we'd had this 10 years ago, it would have been completely different.
Yeah, let's give this a refresh. And Stay Lost is something that I played on an episode. So Tired Up is the song that we started the show with. E-Girls Are Ruining in My Life is one of the songs from The Witching Hour. The final episode is the intro to The Witching Hour. No Wind Resistance is the song that we're about to fucking play. Like, every single song in here is like, there's no Dancing in the Moonlight is because we played it earlier. It's like, I can't go on to a playlist anymore and just get like wholehearted recommendations. Because if I go on, indie pop energy, instantly it's like, it's going to be something really crap. It's going to be something, there we go, Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon. It's like...
I agree, because it's funny, because I use YouTube Music as well.
Yeah.
And, sorry, Spotify fans out there, but go fuck yourself. But I use YouTube Music, and... as a superior person to you, it's annoying because there's like these categories, and there's like listen again, mix for you, etc., etc. And one of them is recommended.
Yeah. Now,
recommended is quite good, but it's very on the fence, and I think it's getting worse lately for reasons that we just talked about. But traditionally, it was quite good, because I always found it to be hit and miss. Like it would recommend something for you. It'd go, oh, you listen to a lot of this artist or this style of music or this genre. And here's some other stuff that sounds like it that you might like. And I would find that it would be one of two things. It would be quite good or very far off the mark. Now, I'm not saying you're going to like everything, but like out of the playlist it gives you, you might find one or two songs that go, oh, that's not that bad. But a lot of the times I would find it's like, it's not even close. And now it's even less so for this reason, that it's oversaturated, because it's all the same thing that's been rehashed 4 or 5 times instead of new original content.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just kind of like, it's one of the reasons why I do this show in the format that it is in the first place, because as you remember, this used to have no music whatsoever. As I started to feel the scarcity come in, because how many years was this just a talk show? Like, from 2009 till you joined in 2015, is that correct? No, it's 2013, I think. So in that period, there was a maximum of one song per show.
No, one song. So what would
one song?
When would that be even be? I should know. I was on it, but I don't remember. When would the song be?
It'd usually be at the start.
You'd open with a song, yeah. That's right.
And then it would just be talk for an entire hour.
I feel like you then moved to closing on a song as well.
Yes,
and
but
then
that was always
when you start to pick them up.
Yeah, that was always going on overtime. So that was more, because we're syndicated, because we're going out to different radio stations, there would need to be some sort of closing song in case they needed a presentational exit, as it were.
Yeah,
because you can't just go,
a transition.
Okay, bye, and then the radio station plays in. Oh, it's Chat and Spin Radio. That is one of the stations we're on.
You wouldn't be able to. The only way you could do it, because to me that's like YouTube's the same for that. You think of, like, if anyone has seen Critical, his outros are painfully curt, and I think that when I first saw him, I was just
see ya.
Yeah, literally, that's about it. See ya, and that's it. That's his outro, and it's very against the grain, because he's been doing YouTube for years, and he's always done it that way. He's never had an outro, and YouTube not so much now, but especially traditionally, you always had an intro, you always had an outro. Like, that was the thing, and if you didn't, what's wrong with you? You're going against the grain, and for a reason, because it makes that transition easier. It's weird if you just start and just stop. It's abrupt and it's out of the blue, and it does make it easier to transition from one show to the next.
Yeah,
by having something, you can't just fade to black. It's not The Sopranos, you can't just cut off mid-set. sentence. It doesn't work. It's weird. It's clunky. You have to have a fade in and a fade out. Be it music. Music's the easiest way of doing it because it's audio. So,
yeah. It just means that we can share, especially in this kind of like scarcity space that we're in. It's just nice for me to be able to change the format of the show to kind of like at least expose people to new music that I've heard instead of the usual crap that they'll hear on like any streaming service. I mean, thank God we're not one of those cringe top 40 stations. Anyway, Ollie Murs coming up, and Kelly's had problems with her new kettle. Oh no! We'll come back to that after the Sparkle Cum FM Give Me a Tenner concert. In the meantime, here's Kinret. Kinret and No Wind Resistance, the remix, right here on the Callum Sutton Show. I hope you're all doing well. That was one way to outro a feature right there.
Yeah, well, from now on, we're going to talk in radio voice.
We're going to be talking in radio voice. Welcome along to Chaz and Vaz FM. I don't know what that's even supposed to mean.
That's not that bad, because I don't know how to describe it, but do you know what I mean when I say pilot voice?
Yes.
Pilots have this thing where it's similar to radio voice, but they talk in long-running sentences, so they say lots of things fast, and then they just going to stop, and then they keep going.
And we're going to be stopping off in South Missouri.
And then they just stop for like 3 minutes, and everyone's just sat in the plane like, are you okay? And I think that
what you don't hear is the drummer behind him counting him back in.
It's
and
weird,
4,
though.
3, 2, 1, and we're going to be stopping off at the volcanoes of Vesuvius.
I think that like if pilots had radio voice, I think that would be more engaging. But they are very kind of like southern. I'd love to hear a southern pilot. That would be like if you're on like a 14-hour flight, an hour and a half would be sat taxiing. Why just draw southern drawl.
Hold up, I'm getting my neighbour some beers.
It's strange because like I think what it is that there's a degree of like comforting because when you hear a pilot speak, it's somewhat comforting and assuring, but I feel like you'd want that, right? If you're scared of flying
Depends
and the
on
guy's
the airline,
like,
really.
Right, but like if you think about it, if you're like a nervous flyer and on the plane and the guy gets on and he goes, "Oh right, so today we're flying to Brisbane, Burbank, again with a B, Baltimore. That's the one, I think. Anyway, am I on the right plane? Which button puts the seat back? Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is that we're going to be leaving in a bit. I need to check if they put the right fuel in. I don't know if it's diesel or unleaded, so I'm going to check. But we'll be taking off soon. And like you'd be shitting yourself. You'd have like the grip of death on your seat. You'd be like, I'm going to die. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. So there is that degree of like it's comforting, it's reassuring, like that they're speaking like with a degree of confidence, you know, and you're reassured. But I feel like there's a fine line there, you know? And I feel like pilots having radio voice, not obnoxious radio voice, mind you, but I feel like that would be a better addition because they do have that annoying way of being pilots, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, there's several things I wouldn't want to hear on a flight. You know, predominantly being...
The Callum Sutton Show.
That would instantly just be a terrible
imagine
flight
being
altogether.
on a red-eye flight for like
listening to the Callum Sutton Show, all things
on repeat.
But I usually fly Lufthansa, and that is a terrifying experience sometimes because it's the confidence more than anything else. It's the opposite.
You can be overconfident.
Yeah, it's when the wing is falling off and the pilot goes, "Don't worry, I got some duct tape," and it's like, fuck, we're gonna die, aren't we?
You can't see this because you are out there and I'm in the cabin, but I'm blindfolded. It's not a king, mainly not a king thing, but I can fly blindfolded.
I'm just doing the what's it called?
And then all you can hear is terrain, pull up. And they're just like, I think this is fine.
What's that thing where you hit something with a baseball bat and candy comes out? Pinata. I'm doing the pinata.
Look, man, no hands.
I mean, I specifically work with Germans quite a lot. And I think there's a lot of overt optimism that I really like. I've got to be honest, like I really like it. Because it's very much the opposite of our British ways of, how you doing, mate? Yeah. I don't want to kill myself. And
Germans
it's like,
do
right,
not
well, you're
do.
doing well.
Yeah, like it's positivity, but I don't know how to describe it. I mean, you'll know because but for someone who doesn't know, they're overly positive without having to display any emotion.
Oh yeah,
like they don't do small talk in Germany, and like it's almost rude to make conversation. But they're nice, they're friendly, they're just emotionless. Like they don't sound happy, they just are, and they don't do small talk. They're very like to the point, but not in like a rude, blunt way. It's hard to explain. It's nice. It's refreshingly nice. I'll give you that much.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's very much like they're kind of just into the big talk. Like they just skip everything. They're just like there's a reason they don't like small talk.
There's no filler. Yeah.
They want to get to the important stuff, and they're very much in. It's well documented that they're about their work. That's why they make some of the best stuff in the world. It is very much a thing where they're like, I don't have time to talk about the weather. Can you fuck off? They'll be like, I want to talk about the big stuff. I want to get to the nitty and gritty. But I've worked with multiple Germans now, especially in the, when we're flying the Eagle Eye around, because the majority of pilots are German, because, they're very to the point, direct, just able to follow instructions well. And ultimately, they are also like insanely polite, like ridiculously polite. Like they will come up to you after having like a mental argument. Like you could like crash their car, and there would be like this massive backlash. They'll be screaming at each other, and there'll be rage, and there'll be socks off, and there'll be let's not go too far on that.
The gloves and the socks are off.
The gloves and the socks are off. And then the next time they see you, they'll literally bow with like their palms together, and they'll be like, "It's nice to see you again." It's like, how did you get over that so quickly?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because it's German engineering, and the car has no damage.
Yeah, also that. It's like, you'll send the car into a wall.
Car's
it didn't affect me. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. That's why Germans buy German. I find it funny because I see a lot of things, and maybe it's just this like post-Brexit world, but there's a lot of like made in Britain.
Yeah,
and it's.
I was about to say, can you imagine Britain buying Britain? It's like
just,
right. Well, that's broken.
Exactly.
That potato is mouldy.
It's just like there's anything that's made in Britain. The problem is that we had this big whole, without doing the whole like Star Wars intro scroll with the recap of Brexit and why we did it. But essentially the whole idea was, we're taking back control and all that other sound bites. But we kind of forgot that we haven't been a manufacturing-based economy since the 80s because Thatcher saw to that finished. And now we are a service-based economy.
That is a very loose term as well.
So, like, we don't manufacture anything anymore. And there are still some things we do, like steel, but who are you going to buy from? British steel or Chinese steel, which is half the price and only half as likely to collapse on you? Chinese steel all the way.
Everything by halves. I was terrified out in Saudi.
The live leak supreme.
When I was out in Saudi, they use Chinese steel to keep the arenas up. And it's like, I don't feel safe right now.
You can hear it groaning in the wind, but there's no wind. And you're like, why is it moving like this?
It's like every single time it gets hot, it sweats. And it's like, I don't think metal's supposed to do that.
Why has it got a wood grain to it? I wouldn't trust it at all.
Something's seriously wrong. But, we're a design economy. I think that's what we're kind of mostly famous for.
Yeah, we design it and we sell the concept to someone else to make, probably Germany. And they get all the money and we get the residuals.
We've had like a lot of good concepts come out recently. And, historically we've been like head of medical industries, and more recently we're kind of getting more into technology because ARM is based here, Raspberry Pi is based here. I think NVIDIA do a lot of their research down here, or AMD specifically, basically calls UK their home now. So we're great with design. We just, would you buy a UK fire extinguisher?
I
quote
famously,
a fire
that's
in
IT crowd.
Parks.
Yeah, it's IT crowd, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's true though, because like anything that's made in Britain, like I remember this sticks out in my head very precisely. I remember I was in Tesco.
Yeah.
And this was post-Brexit. It was probably like a year in. It wasn't, too deep in. But I very distinctly remember seeing, like, how...
Wait, hang on, what's Brexit?
Oh, you haven't heard?
No.
Oh, right. So the Union declared war on... We separated, and we're now the separatist states. It's Star Wars Episode 1, essentially. We're the separatists. and we've left the EU. And in according to that time traveller on TikTok, the EU is just going to nuke us off the face of the earth in about 3 months. So
We left the EU.
yeah.
I didn't think we were real.
Well, no, we're still on speaking terms, but like they get the kids most of the time. We get them on the weekends and holidays. So it's but they don't talk to us. It's just for the kids. It's keeping up appearances.
So what continent are we in now?
Oh, we're not. That's why we're surrounded by water. We
Right.
originally were a land bridge, and then the French blew up all the land between us, and now it flooded, and now we're an island.
Okay.
Don't Google any of this. Just take it at face. Believe everything you hear,
No, you should believe everything you hear.
especially from this reputable source of news.
The Callum Sutton Show has
Yeah.
always been very, very genuine in what we say. I mean, hypodermic needle effect. You know the hypodermic needle effect? The whole, it is the interpreting of media. So the hypodermic needle effect was a theory brought out in 1908, and it essentially says that anything that an audience hears is taken at face value.
Oh, is this? I'm assuming you're going to talk about War of the Worlds.
That was one of them, yeah. Yeah.
Well, because you would, but especially in the way it was
Well, that
presented.
was true. It was all true. It was hypodermic needle. It's all true. It's all true on here as well. So, okay, so we left the EU. I don't. Is that a good thing for us?
Well, it killed George Michael.
The actor. Fuck. I really liked him in Superbad.
Yeah, no, he was doing fine, and then we left, and then he just dropped dead. And to be fair, when did we leave? Was it 2016? Because
I
2016,
don't know.
everyone famous ever died.
All I know now is I'm thinking of. Have you seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Yes.
Fucking brilliant film. I was just like,
So
yeah,
good.
I can't see Michael Cena as anyone but George Michael from Arrested Development. So every time I see him, I'm like, George Michael, how did he sing when he's so young? The mother looks at me and she's like, wow, I wish you were born.
Well, yeah, raising children is, as my dad says, raising children is like baking. You always fuck up the first batch, and
Yeah.
then you get it down after that, which is concerning. But I mean, on my dad's side, he's got a couple of kids, but yeah, mum's just got me, so she's stuck with me. But
Yeah.
I'm an
Unfortunate.
only child, and I'm still not the favourite, so I know how that feels. It's it's not great. I'm gonna be
So who's
honest.
your favourite child? George Michael. It's like, we didn't give birth to him. So,
Oh,
final answer.
that I remember, right, yeah, that was it. So in the produce aisle at the top, like above the shelving, you've got like these banner things that say
Yeah.
like fresh produce, meat and veg, and not meat and veg, it's produce, you know what I mean, right? But there's one of them, it very
My
distinctly
favourite
sticks
thing
out.
grown in a field.
Meat. Then you go to those kebab shops, meat and chips. Like, what meat? I said meat and chips. You want it or not? It costs $3.50 for a reason. Why is this why has this meat got a microchip in it?
I said meat and chips.
Is this a cat? It's got feathers. But there was this banner and it said, I cannot fathom this. It says British pak choy. Because that's one thing I look for in a Chinese lettuce, is how British it is. If I was really concerned about how British, the ethnicity of my lettuce.
I didn't realise there was such a thing as British bak choy.
Exactly, like there isn't, because by definition it's a Chinese lettuce. Now I know we live in this age now with like import and export, like we were saying before, like
Yeah.
where things that traditionally are made elsewhere aren't. But generally speaking, if I want a Chinese English lettuce, I would just buy. Like if I care that much about whether or not it's an English lettuce, I would just buy like an iceberg lettuce or something. But
Yeah.
no, I want a pak choy, but it's got to be English.
I mean,
Who
I think these days it's kind of like you don't know what's real anymore.
There's just this like
It's just continuous.
there is this like fanatical nationalism that we're going through now as a nation, where it's like it's got to be British.
Yeah.
It's like, right, but the thing you want isn't, by definition, isn't British. Yeah, but I want it but British. It's like, what does that mean?
Well,
What's a British Chinese? What's a term? National? No,
British
not
Chinese.
naturalized. What's a naturalized Chinese
Yeah.
lettuce? I never thought that was a sentence I would say in my life, but apparently these are the important things now. You know, everything's got to be British.
I mean, it's everything. It's produce. It's science. I mean, scientists at Papworth University have discovered more about the Earth by probing the mantle with a hypodermic needle. and they've found out that it's just hollow inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
The entire thing is a globe. It's Brian Cox's fantasy come to life.
Yeah, it turns out that it's all just a bunch of hot air.
It's all just a bunch of hot air.
Yeah.
And that's how we're floating in space.
It's crazy.
Like, it's amazing we haven't dropped to the bottom of space yet, because as we know, space is flat.
Well, they've calculated the rate that we move through space.
Yeah.
And they've predicted that at the speed we're going, eventually we will hit the bottom in about 7 billion years.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably just bounce really hard and shoot back up again, and then we'll do that bouncing thing for millennia, and then we'll die of heat death of the universe.
But they've got to be kind of like, they've got to be
Australia's going to be screwed. They're going to get
concerned
squashed.
about it. Well, that's the thing. They need to work out, the projectile, which part of the Earth is going to be smashed into the bottom of the universe.
Yeah, but surely everyone on the top will just bounce off anyway.
Well, everyone needs to move to a safe place, either on the sides or
Slough.
maybe not the top. Well, if Slough's at the top, then everyone will kind of just go to Slough
Well, it's in the middle.
and tape themselves to the ground with gaff tape. And then when the bounce happens, they won't rise from the Earth and accidentally get thrown off into the rest of the Milky Way.
This is sounding, with every word, this is sounding more and more like an Amazon Prime original. It's dangerously close. It'll have Robbie Amell and what's her face? Alexandra Daddario. And they'll be the two leads. It'll be like, no, what's that? Jake
I like how
Paul
Alexandra
thing?
Daddario is also going to be the scientist who...
Oh, yes.
It obviously is a honeypot for the rest of the scientists to believe in Hollow Earth.
Yes, because she's hot and therefore she's believable.
As I wrote this fucking stupid segment in the car, we were going off to the Duke of York. Not the real one, the place.
Yeah,
And
he was
I was-
busy. He couldn't make time for us today.
Yeah, it's annoying because
Had a meeting with 10,000 men or something.
never has in his dress.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah. As we were in the car, kind of going off to the Duke of York, and I was writing the segment, I was like, this is stupid. Let's try and play it off as hard as humanly possible.
I mean, if you can... Well, this is what we were saying before, funnily enough, about believing the hypodermic needle.
Hypodermic
believing
needle.
things you hear.
Yeah, and you should believe that everything you hear on the Callum Sutton Show is 100% real.
Yeah.
Hollow Earth is a thing, and if we accidentally stick the hypodermic needle in too much, it will eventually burst the Earth and we'll go flying off in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but it'll make a cool sound. It'll be quite funny before we die, so it will be worth it.
It's because I was talking about the documentary Beyond the Curve on Amazon Prime, which you watched for 10 minutes maybe before we did the show.
That was 10 minutes more than I needed to get an idea of the premise.
I like the show. That's the thing. I feel bad for where's a documentary?
It's
like
it's
it.
a documentary that isn't about the subject, which is very bizarre. I mean, it's weird. It's like a love story that's just kind of like dressed up as a conspiracy, and it's like, hold on, which is this meant to be about? Is it the conspiracy or the love story?
Yeah.
It's very odd. The difference is with this is there is no third party that's in on it that's like questioning them or probing them. It's just genuinely just them in front of a camera. So it's not quite the same because in Borat with like the he goes up on stage and throw the Jew down the well like that. Like the whole bar's chanting it. But they wouldn't be chanting that unless he got up there and sung it, right? So he was the catalyst for that. And it's the same with the whole film. It's him going into situations, getting them to react in the way he wants to.
Yeah.
But with this, there isn't that person. It's just them. There's
Just
no
them.
one prompting to get the response you want. They just do their thing, and it just writes itself, as you say.
It's fantastic, yeah, because there really is just there's no effort in it whatsoever. It's kind of just like point a camera at something stupid, and it will eventually kind of just
It's monkeys and typewriters.
it will make itself in the most literal way possible. and I'll never quite understand. I forgot that this was in the running order. I thought we were going into a musical item. I will never quite understand how we can kind of like.
Me neither.
There is a lot of brain cells. There's a lot of brain cells in the world, and I don't think any of them can comprehend what that documentary has in it. I mean, the part that I showed you in the pub that was literally like, what was it? There's never been a happy folk song about 9/11.
Well, you won't believe what's up next, listeners. It's a Callum original.
Jesus Christ! But that was like
September 11th, 2000 fun.
fuck me. That was a literal quote from the movie. That was like...
He compares a national tragedy to a conspiracy.
Yeah. And there's no shame in it either.
No, it's
On his
100%
end,
earnest. Genuinely
that was him just being like, yep, this is my genuine view.
Yeah.
And it shows that, I don't know, I wouldn't say they're dangerous. It's just... It's a weird one.
Well, it's dangerous in the sense of someone who doesn't know how to driving is dangerous.
Yeah, it's a lot of misinformation.
You know? But they affect everyone around them, not necessarily themselves.
Yeah. It's a lot of misinformation. None of it is malicious. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And they did the experiment at the end where they put together 2 pieces of wood with holes in them, basically, spaced a certain amount of meters apart. And then they had this, like, really bright light on one side and the camera on the other side. And so they shone it through. And this is, like, after multiple failed attempts, because either the light was too bright, the hole was in the wrong place, the fucking camera was in the wrong place, they were in the wrong place, they were in Arizona for some reason.
The wonky photons.
The hole was somewhere else.
They won't go in a straight line.
And so the whole idea of the experiment was literally, if the light makes it through, then Earth is flat.
Yeah, because if there's a curvature, it wouldn't pass. The further away you get, it would just stop shining through.
And if we have to raise it up, that proves that there is curvature. And we've just disproved everything. And it got to the end of the documentary, and they put the light in, and they got the holes ready, and the camera. They shone it through, and nothing was there. And literally at the very last minute, they went, hey, why don't you just raise it up ever so slightly? And the fucking light appeared.
We'll be right back on the Callum Sutton Show.
Yeah, we were just talking about Mark Zuckerberg, but we'll come back to that in a moment. I was just wondering if Lucky Palmer had been arrested yet. Do you know what happened with him?
I've vaguely heard, but
from a million miles away.
Vaguely heard, but not fully. No, I haven't been keeping up on it.
So very specifically with the nerve gear. So Lucky Palmer was the original person behind, or Palmer Lucky. It gets confusing because it sounds like it should be Lucky Palmer.
Yeah, it does sound like a nickname.
Yeah, but it's actually Palmer Lucky. But I'm going to continue referring to him as Lucky Palmer because we don't do corrections here on the Callum Sutton Show. When I decide something's correct, you better believe it is. Yeah. Hypodermic needle.
Because that means admitting fault.
Exactly, and we don't admit fault, not even to the insurance company.
You can't admit fault if you weren't in the wrong to begin with. Your Honour, they stepped out in front of me.
Palmer Lucky is the guy who basically created Oculus. Like, he's the founder before Meta took it over.
Is this, when you say creator, do you mean the company or like the creator of the product?
The company, the creator of the product of the Oculus Rift.
Both. Okay.
The Oculus Quest, all of that sort of stuff. He's basically responsible for all of it. The reason I've been kind of questioning whether he's been arrested yet, there was a police car there, if you heard it.
I did.
There you go. You get extra points if you hear the police car in every episode.
Press 1 on your handset now if you heard them.
That's a great way to get people to listen to retro episodes, is being like, yeah, by the way, there's a police car hidden in every single one. Palmer Lucky basically sold the company to Meta, all of that sort of stuff, and then, nobody heard from him in years, and then he kind of, like, out of nowhere was like, by the way, to celebrate Phantasy Star Online, I created a nerve gear in real life. Now, I don't know if you're...
Oh, I do remember now. This is the one that kills the user.
Yes.
It has the 3 bolts and it blows the front of your frontal lobe out. I do. I remember this. I thought this was like a meme.
No, it was 100% real.
Genuinely, if you pee in the Matrix, you pee in real life.
Keanu Reeves has shit himself 6 times in this episode span. So basically he sold Oculus to Facebook for $2 billion back in 2014, and then went on and did his own things. He started basically researching into further AR technologies, so obviously kind of getting ready for his next debut of device, whatever that may be, if it is a device. But it wasn't Fantasy Online, it was Sword Art Online. When Sword Art Online finished its first season, he basically decided that he wanted to try and recreate the Nerf gear, which
I want to kill people too.
Yeah. In Sword
Serial
Art
killer
Online,
origins.
the Nerf gear is basically an AR headset that users put on, and once they've put it on, they can't get back out of it. It rules their life, and if they die inside the game, they die in real life. And they're basically, literally stuck there. They have no other option.
The Matrix, but anime. It's actually a really good Sword Art Online is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good concept as a show, as a real life concept, however, because Palmer Luckey decided that he wanted to get in on basically the end of that series. He decided he wanted to create a Nerf gear in real life, which was a Oculus Quest modded with free explosive charges inside the headset. And, oh, by the way, it might rely on colours on screen, of all things. Like, if the headset went a specific colour of red, free explosive charges will detonate into your head.
Okay, I just want to point out, this might be a controversial opinion. I think that this product has some limited use, right? So
Okay, go ahead.
don't think that every Tom Dick, I don't think you should be able to buy this, but I think about what this would do for esports. I'm just saying, right? I know it's questionably ethical or unethical therein, but think what it would do for esports. I'm not saying every Tom, Dick and Harry. I don't think your nan playing Candy Crush should have one of these, but I think that it has a place, and I just think that like what we need is new blood sports, right? The gladiators are gone, right? But I think forget Total Wipeout. We need like the new era of blood sport, and I think esports and blood sports are a perfect combination. I think you can merge those two into CS:GO, or CS2 has just dropped. But just think you're just watching the World Championships of CS:GO, and then just seeing someone get their brains blown out.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alex's TED Talk of all things.
This is the Callum Sutton Show
from Opposition Studios.
And one thing that I didn't learn about for a very long time, but is insanely intriguing to me, because we were going to talk about, to a certain extent, subliminal horror. So, Michaeli, you've hit metal 17 times. There is an Instagram account for this where it is Michaeli, you've hit metal 17 times every day, is turning into its own version of a kind of Pets Cop-esque thing. And this is a shout to Under Review, a show that me, Alex, Henry, and TJ recorded 6 years ago, where we talked about Pets Cop, we talked about Psychosis by Matt Dermosky, all sorts of like subliminal horror, the Salad Finger series, and the other stuff that he was doing, all sorts of stuff. And so while we're kind of on this tangent, as it were, you got Silent Hill, which already was fucking with the player in like this insane way, because it would pause your game, it would try to delete your game saves, it would mess with your head in every single possible way, and it was 100% focused towards the actual player, which you don't see very often. LSD Dream Emulator was a game for the PS1. Have you heard of this?
This was it was for the PS1.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like PS1 style. I didn't realize. How old is it then?
No, it's 1998.
Is it? I assumed it was one of those things where we're seeing this a lot now, where you get like demakes.
Yeah.
Where you'll get like The Last of Us on PS1,
which I love. It's great.
Which are really cool. And
Yeah.
I thought that this, because I remember seeing it like, I don't know, like 5 years ago or something, and I assumed it was that, where it was just someone had like demade it, because you get a lot of like, especially horror now, you get a lot of horror that's like PS1 era quality.
Yeah.
And I just chalked it up to that. I was like, cool, someone wanted, and it suits, ironically, if you were to make this game today, I would make it in like a PS1 style, because it suits the theme and the tone.
Yeah.
Because it's very blocky and abstract. And I think that because you're not going for realism. That's not like LSD is surreal. So you don't want realism. You want surrealism. And I think the PS1 perfectly emulates that. So I just assumed it was someone had made it a couple of years ago. I didn't know it was that old. How did that even get made?
Well, it's a weird one, because it was literally like, so, basically nobody up until recently outside of the Japanese market had even heard of it.
So this is why it had the big blow up a couple of years ago, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because all of a sudden people noticed that this limited release game in Japan was kind of like there.
Yeah, this is
and it hadn't been documented yet.
So it would have had to have been made and published, physically put onto disc and sold in stores. You know, that's now anyone can do that. You can just go on Itch.io and throw out any old slop.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's the exciting thing about the emulation industry. So it's only because the emulation industry exists and it's so vast at the moment, it's so easy to get into, that people eventually were like, okay, well, there's this game here called LSD, which already is an intriguing name. Might as well download it, see what it's all about. It took a while for people to patch emulators to correctly run it. So, no wonder it took a while for people to actually get into it, see what it was all about. But when they did, and, YouTube videos, and it's very like, it's voyeur YouTube videos. It's literally like screen caps. It's like, there's no sensationalization around it. Markiplier's not done his series yet, all of that sort of stuff.
Hello, everybody.
That sort of thing. Jacksepticeye isn't there yet. It's literally just, it's letterbox 4x3, 576p, screen caps, it's easy cap, it's your shitty USB to composite dongle.
Oh, please.
Screen capping this.
Tell me more.
And people, Jesus Christ. Wow, the desk is raising.
You got one of those desks, have you? Standing desk.
People started uploading these, 480p screen caps of the game, and obviously other people started to kind of catch on to the trend. And when it became really interesting is when people realized that it used procedural generation like Minecraft uses to create its game worlds. Like, none of the game is preset.
Well, no, it's if anyone's played it out there or seen it be played or whatnot, but it's not unsurprisingly, it's not a narrative-based game. It's not. Yeah. It's more of an experience. That's what it's meant to be. It's a simulator at the end of the day, but it's not. There is no direction or form. It's very just as it goes. It's hard to explain if you haven't seen it or played it, but it's what you would expect. Like, whatever you stereotypically think of LSD as being, that's it. And it does quite a good... Well, can't really say it does a good job. I haven't taken LSD, but it's very surreal, and it's more of... it's less of a game. The game is more of just like a medium. It's more of an experience. It's more of like a sensory thing almost. It goes beyond just being like gameplay. It's more of what you see and you hear and how you experience it. And that would be interesting in VR, thinking about it.
Yeah, it's just... As a concept, it's bizarre, sure. That's exactly what they were going for. But it's also like not very well executed, and that's what makes it executed well. Yeah, because if you're tripping, you don't want things to be a perfect experience.
Well, that's what I was saying before about you wouldn't want it to be realistic. You want it to be surrealistic, so to speak. Like, you don't want realism because... Yeah, abstract concepts like that are surreal by nature and definition. So how do you realistically portray the unrealistic? Yeah, it's a very hard thing to do because it's subjective. And it's all purely based on, like, no two people would have the same LSD trip. So how do you create a generalized... Yeah, because like I could take LSD once and go, right, I'm going to make a game purely based on my experience, but no one else might have that. So it's hard for something that is just so intangible and vague, it's hard to make that into a physical thing that people can experience. So I think it does a good job of that, but how would you do a bad job of it? It's just so subjective. Like, how would you make it in a bad way? Yeah, I guess you'd make it a first-person shooter or a survival horror. But yeah, like the evil it's within.
Like, by the way, we've got a pet caring game, and it's called LSD.
Damn, I got you.
You're going to look after a dog while on LSD.
Jesus Christ! Single mother simulator.
Jesus Christ! But for me, it was literally like it is literally just the way that everything is not stitched together.
It's rough around the edges.
Is
in a
what
good
makes
way.
it, yeah. And it was only because the Raspberry Pi I have basically running the show right now, although it's not doing a very good job because the fucking lights aren't turning off. I ran PSX emulator on it and decided to go for LSD and see what it was like. And it's just the, like, you walk into the slightest bit of a corner somewhere and all of a sudden everything's different. Like, the entire game world changes and there's no rhyme or reason for the actual changes that happen. And the game doesn't even respect time. Like, it legitimately has no fucking clue what time even is. Because sometimes you'll be walking along.
It's just ethereal.
And the level will just change.
Yeah. It does have that feeling of, especially in like early PS1 games where things were very blocked out.
Yeah.
Like now, like if you think of like The Last of Us or Uncharted, like Naughty Dog are really good at doing like these seamless transitions where you go from gameplay to cutscene and you don't even notice the difference, you know? They do such a good job of that. But in the PS1 area, it was literally just like, Mission 1, and then it would just spit you out in some box, and then you'd get to the objective, and it would just be like, whoop, and it just cut out, and it'd be like loading screen. And you think of like, what was the name of it? The James Bond, GoldenEye. You think of something like GoldenEye, right? You get to the end, it's just like, whoop, and then you get like a loading screen, and it goes, anyway, here's the next mission.
Yeah.
And like, it would jump around. It was very sporadic. 1 minute you'd be in the game, then you'd have a loading screen, then it's the next game. There's no transitions. The loading screen was the transition. It would just be like, okay, here's this thing now. And it would just kind of bat you around pillar to post. And that's just how games were then. It's very jarring now if you made a game like that. But that's just how they were. And it does that, partly because it's a PS1 game and that's how they all were. But it's weird because like you'll feel like you've, for lack of a better descriptive, like you've met the objective. But then when you get to said objective, it just ends and then spits you out somewhere else. But like you don't know, because there is no overarching narrative or objectives or anything. You don't know what you're looking for. You're just wandering around, and then it goes, okay, anyway, here's this place now, and it spits you out and puts you somewhere else, and it's rather bizarre. But yeah, I think maybe it's probably a lot of it's just time based.
Yeah.
You probably get to a certain time and it goes, okay, here's the next bit now.
Literally, yeah. And it is definitely, as you would expect, is confusing and disorienting, and that's kind of the entire point of the game. But yeah,
it's not meant to make sense by definition. It's meant to be abstract.
Absolutely. And I can only kind of appreciate games like that. And it's the reason why I want to see more subliminal horror come to life, because you hear enough about it being written. I mean, I nearly made an entire movie based around Matt Damaski's Psychosis. Rest in peace to that whole idea.
Well, why not? Why don't we pick that back up?
I think it was a weird limitation. I think it stopped on a very weird limitation, which was we didn't have access to an elevator.
That's a very... I mean, to be fair, it is biting off a lot to chew, but
yeah.
It's...
The actual script itself was quite difficult to kind of, in my eyes, at least, because I've written the screen adaptation of it, and in my eyes, it was just very difficult to kind of do because, A, I didn't have the equipment I have at the time. So now I've got my cinema camera and everything. Yeah, it is a potentially plausible thing to do.
I mean, if you can get a light bulb to occasionally sometimes to work, then I think that you can. Then we can do this. I think it's doable. Because I mean,
the
like,
best electronic engineer
at the moment
who ever lived.
If he flushes the toilet or turns on the oven, the power goes out and it starts playing Men at Work.
Sometimes I sneeze and my tally lights go off.
It's quite odd, but other than that, it works most. So what's that quote? Anchorman, 60% of the time it works every time.
Yeah,
it's promising.
70% of the time it works every time. What was that? That was the Panther. The Panther.
This is illegal in like 50 states or something. Such a good film. But I mean, it's doable.
It is doable.
It's a lot of effort, and as with everything, the more people you have, the easier it is.
Yeah, it was just the way that I visioned it, because I wanted it to be genuinely fucking terrifying. I was like, well, if you're going to do a horror movie, especially something that Matt Damaski's written, And if you haven't heard anything or read anything by Matt Domeski, definitely check him out, because he's a fantastic writer who doesn't get enough attention. But you read things like The Asylum, which is available in Kindle, and it is genuinely the most terrifying shit you've ever read. Like, for a good half an hour, you'll be thinking, there is something wrong with the author of this book. There is genuinely something really fucking wrong with him. And I can't reach out for comment on it, but the fact that he manages to illustrate things in such a terrifying way, because The Asylum is disgusting, like absolutely disgusting. Like, it's a series of 10 books. All of them are, I think, about 5 pages each, and they are legitimately disgusting. Like, there's stories about basically an enabler who causes a man to chop his own limbs off. There is a story about a woman who's got schizophrenia and seems to think that she can find food in people. Oh, there is a lot of really disgusting stories in it, but it's just the fact that he's managed to bring them to life in a way that's actually realizable. That they're actually, like, I
think that's what
imaginable.
I mean, I know it's like different things to different people, but for me, like, you know, horror can be scary, and when we say horror, I mean, you look at gaming, and if I say horror game, you think of Five Nights at Freddy's, with its, 2 to 5 boos, and it's like, a jump scare is a bit different to, like, that slow building dread.
Yeah.
And you think you compare, like, Five Nights at Freddy's, the film, to, like, Alien, it's like they're two very different things, but they're both horror, technically. And I think that when you're making something that's horror, for me, and anything can be scary if it's done right, but for me, I think the scariest thing is things that are scary because they can happen. Because, like, you've got Jason Voorhees and Freddie Mercury. God.
Of course.
Freddie, fuck, what's his name? My brain's like, Freddie
Remember,
Fazbear.
Queen can happen at any moment.
Stay indoors, Queen are about. The Queen has breached containment. But no, my brain's now saying Freddie Fazbear. Freddie Flintoff. Freddie with the scissor hands. Edward Freddy hands. What's his name?
Edward Scissorhands.
God, what's his name? Freddie.
Edward Scissorhands, not Freddie.
No, Nightmare at Elm Street.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
Him.
Yep.
You think of, like, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Right? Classic horror tropes. But they're scary. Don't get me wrong, they are scary, but they're not real. Right? And I think what makes good horror, for me, is something that can actually happen. Like, that's great horror. It's something that's perfectly grounded in reality.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Chiller's Art. He makes some horror games.
Heard of him, yep.
And they're all based into perfectly real scenarios. And, like, one of them's like someone who, a girl that works at Starbucks that has a stalker.
Yes.
Little things like that.
I fucking love that series.
It's terrifying.
It's brilliant. But it's amazing.
The thing is, though, it's 100% something that can happen. I think for me, some of the best horror is something where you don't have to, like, with anything science fiction, like, you have to go to great lengths to make it believable.
Yeah.
And part of good science fiction writing is making something that's believable, right? But I think one of the things that makes good horror is something that the less you have to convince someone, because you're tapping into, like, a primal fear. Like, I heard someone say, and this terrifies me, about pareidolia, right? And the ability to see faces where there aren't faces. So, like, the dots on butterfly wings, right?
Yes.
That kind of thing. Like a weird tree that looks like a face. Like, we see faces in everything. And then that goes into the uncanny valley of things that kind of look human, but not quite. Something looks off. And someone was saying about how they read somewhere that the reason we must have that ability, because at some point in our evolution, we needed to be aware of things that looked human that weren't.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying, yeah.
The idea of there was almost human things. But, I mean, that could be like Neanderthals and other, like, humanoids, but humanoids could be alien people, it could be reptilians, it could be anything, and I know it's like a bit of a stretch, but it's true. Like, why have we evolved this ability to see and be wary of faces that might be predators, and especially things that look human, and the more human they are, the creepier they get, and that's just like a weird primal fear that we all have that's just ingrained into us. Like, the fear of suffocation is a really old development. It predates the brain, and it's in, like, the brain stem and the spine. meaning that there are things that are alive that cannot suffocate, like really simple organisms. Well, not simple if they have a spine, but, things that cannot suffocate, that will have a grounded fear of suffocation just built into them, baked in.
Yeah.
But they can't suffocate, but it's just such an old evolutionary response.
Yeah, really weird things. Like, we are the highest order of man, essentially. And it is literally because of Chiller's art, specifically, that when your fucking phone went off about 15 minutes ago, that I instantly got chills down my spine.
Why?
I don't know, because just small things like that, because of the Chiller's art games that I've played, especially like the Delivery Man series, where it's just like you're just doing the simplest things.
Dropping off parcel.
But these really tiny sounds just instantly unnerve every single fucking bone in your body.
And to me, that's some of like the best I know specifically that's games, but it's the same goes for films as well. Any like horror genre, books, you name it.
Yeah.
If you can take something that can 100% happen to anyone at any time for any reason, that's why it's so scary, because you're sitting there thinking that could happen to me.
Well, that's why I wanted to do originally Matt Demersky's Psychosis. So
yeah, because it's tangible, it's plausible, it's something that anyone could realistically experience.
Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic story, and the thing is, it's so simple. It is literally just like man's natural ability to deceive itself, that it was like, I want to do it correct justice. So the reason it hasn't been developed up until this point is literally because I kind of like, when I started rewriting it for screen, I was like, well, I can't just illustrate it as a raw kind of experience. It has to be exactly what the story has put across to me. Yeah. The first time that I read it, when I had barely read any horror at all, some of the feelings that I got kind of just reading it, because a lot of it was like the room closing in on you, and, you walk back through the hall and thunder flashes and every single door just looks like a tombstone to you. All of those unique details just had to be correct.
Very visual.
Yeah.
And you have to go,
how do I
translate that into something physical that you can see?
Yeah. It was literally justification. And so that's the reason why that hasn't kind of come to light yet, because it was like,
you want to do it justice, because at the end of the day, you could do like the Five Nights at Freddy's route, where it's just, it's all going to be jump scares. And it's like, well, that's not what the original source material was. You're butchering it and turning it into something it never was, and isn't, because then like you're going for like the scare for the sake of being scared, and it's like there's a difference between tension and a jump scare. It's scary because you weren't expecting it.
Yeah,
there isn't like, you need the slow build, like that's horror, that's something scary. And I think there's a fine line between a horror and a thriller. Thriller and horror walk a fine line, but ultimately just going boo isn't scary. It can be scary, it isn't horror. And I think that it's very easy to go, oh, well, I want to do this thing, but I can't adapt it properly. I'm just going to throw in some jump scares. Oh, scary for scary's sake. And that's just not...
Yeah.
You're not doing it any justice at that point. It's got to be authentic.
It is only the things that truly make your skin actually crawl that are going to eventually get you in the horror.
Sticks with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you think about how many terrible horror films you've seen, you just forget about them,
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to do it with precision, as if it were. Dennis Lloyd and The Reason right here on the Callum Sutton Show as we finish up this, admittedly, if I say so myself, fucking fantastic canon episode.
I mean, I disagree. I think it's been terrible. No, it's been
I think this has actually been a really good episode. Compared to some of the original canons that we've tried to do.
Well, I mean, the problem is, I was saying this a bit earlier before we went live, about it's a fine line, because it's not like Friends or How I Met Your Mother, where it's like scripted to the beat, insert laugh track, pause for audience slaughter and laughter. Like, you've got to, that is a fine line between that and the other end of the spectrum, which is what we used to do, which would be you sit down for an hour, you get absolutely slaughtered and go, so some weather we're having, and then you just talk for like an hour with a song or two in the middle. So I think that there's definitely a marked progression since those days, but I think having like a formula to follow gives it a bit of backbone.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more turgid.
I think what you're trying to say is that the show's very obviously scripted these days.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. It says on the script here that I have to laugh. Callum's going to make a joke and I have to laugh. And
Yeah.
I have to go, that's really funny, Callum.
Oh yeah, sorry. Here it is.
Now I put you on the spot. You've got to say
Where-
something funny, haven't you?
Why do
Yeah.
astronauts love the keyboard?
I mean,
Because they hang out in the space bar? No, we're not doing that.
pause for disappointment.
Pause disappointment, and then there's cricket sound effects.
Oh,
I think it has been really good though.
No, it's gone well.
We've had some. I mean, it's not necessarily us. It's more just like I think today's worked out well in terms of what's available to us, as it were.
We're becoming corporate sellouts.
Yeah, exactly.
And now our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Have you been meeting meet someone online? Raid fuck.
The problem is, I actually have the ad for oh god, what's that? Honey. Have you heard of Honey?
Have you heard
can
of
save
Honey?
you money in 2 simple clicks.
Yeah.
Literally, I've got that entire ad burned into my head verbatim because everyone had that sponsor.
Yeah,
It just lives in my head now.
I can recite every single fact about NordVPN.
Oh, don't! I use them. Not a sponsor.
The number one VPN service, who also allow you to use MeshNet services to flawlessly integrate all of your computers together over a MeshNet node. Also, by the way, we might be slightly conflicted because you say you use them.
Yeah.
I also... Where's the screen?
Oh, sorry, the light just came on, so everything shut off.
I also just happen to use NordVPN, which I think
just went off.
it is a genuinely great service because I use their MeshNet to manage my remote servers that actually run the show and run the website.
I mean, they are really good, and we're not just paid to say that.
No,
and in case you didn't
we're literally not paid to say that at all.
Callum is, however, going to be paid to be doing the voiceover for their future ads. As you can tell, he clearly has a whole script memorized.
Like, seriously, please, NordVPN, contact us. Like, we've been coming out. Somebody just logged onto PSN.
That was in my brain.
Please, NordVPN.
Am I wearing
we need the money.
Nerve headset?
More on Paramore just before we finish. Recently, they decided that they wanted to take rights back from their label, promoting an era-style reaction. We expect them to start re-recording albums soon. In the meantime, they've pulled multiple tour dates, but this just arrived on my phone earlier as Paramore pulls out of South America. And I was just kind of like, sorry, when the fuck did they start their campaign
After
over there?
the failed invasion of South America.
I was just like, I saw that come up on my phone as Paramore pulls out of South America, and I was just like, fucking hell, Hayley Williams is taking this whole record label thing really badly.
She's pulling out troops as we speak, and
Yeah.
she will be deploying thermonuclear weapons in South America as soon as the troops are out.
It is something that I don't think any of us ever expected.
Never forget. Forget what?
Exactly. And with that, I think we'll end today's show. Obviously, episode 2109 for the 20th of January 2024. Ignore the fact that it says the 10th now. I'm not very good at editing these show notes.
Numbers are hard.
Numbers are hard for me. As per usual, thank you so much for listening. Love you all. It's been a fantastic episode. And thank you for Alex Cole for coming over and sharing wisdom, as it were.
Oh, wow. One man's trash is no man's treasure, eh? It's been a pleasure.
Roots through his brain library for the folder that just says crap I didn't want to say to anyone else.
Do not say on air.
Too raw for radio. Finishing today's show, this is Subtract featuring Sampha and Hold On. And I shall see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Yeah.
SuttonShow.net